Any extraordinary business? Apologies. I've got one from the Deputy Mayor. Somebody like to move that apology be received? Thank you. Seconder. Councillor Ronson. All in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Carried. Declarations of interest. Confirmation of the minutes. Any changes on page 3 or 4? You'll see item number 6 is removed. Depends which copy you've got. If not, somebody like to move those minutes be received. Councillor Latham. Seconder.
Seconder.
Councillor Ronson. All in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Carried. Road Safety, item number 5. Road Safety Coordinating Committee minutes. Any questions? Councillor Lovett is the chair. Any questions for Councillor Lovett? Or Mr. Mayor?
I just have a question, suggestion, and it's around the intersection crashes, which we seem to have the most of in the district, and we've been looking at ways of trying to reduce them with rumble strips and stop signs, etc., etc. And I've noticed lately, and especially around on the highways, is the big red painting on the road. And I see one at Chertsey by the railway crossing. It says railway crossing coming up. Great big red painting on the road with railway crossing on it. You cannot miss it. It's right there, and I think it's a very effective way of letting you know that there's a hazard or potential hazard coming up. Perhaps could that go onto the agenda of the next roading committee, or be taken somewhere at looking, investigating whether that is a way of putting some of those red markings on the road saying stop ahead or whatever it needs to be on some of these dangerous intersections that we have.
That question was asked at that meeting, and they were just doing a bit of research on it just to see if it did make a difference. So we have asked about that, and we're supposed to get a report, I think, coming to next meeting. They had all the data, but they're going to do it better on a lot of accidents and things around the district. So, yeah, but I think it should be, we should mention this and keep it rolling, yeah.
Personally,
I think
seeing
it's
it
a good
there,
idea.
I think everyone who drives over it, they see it. Much more than a sign on the side of the road or whatever. It, to me, seems very effective and looks very simple and very, I presume, cheap to enact. If it works, I think it would. We should be looking at it.
Would somebody like to move that we receive the minutes of the Road Safety Coordinating Committee? Councillor Latham, seconded.
I'll second it.
Councillor Lovett. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary? Carried. You'll note that the next meeting is the 12th of May, not the 11th of May. There's another recommendation that from the Road Safety Committee that we adopt their terms of reference. They haven't actually been adopted. Councillor Lovett?
I would like to move that, please. It's only just taking one name off and just updating.
We've all got a copy of the changes, I think.
Oh, I'm happy to second that.
Councillor Ronson, any further discussion? If not, all in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary? Carried. Central, we better ask Mr. Guthrie to come forward. Central South Water Collaboration. You got anything to add to the report, Mr Guthrie?
No, I'm happy to take it as read and here to answer any questions if there are any.
Councillor Lovett?
I was just going to ask, with this, it's like another umbrella going on at a higher level, who's going to pay for all this if it comes into force? Are the councils expected to pick up the tab of this, or is it government funded, or it's like another layer of bureaucracy going on? It's just, yeah, where's it fitting into a system?
I think if you look on page
Going forward in the future.
somewhere, I think the question is not so much the initial cost. Is it going to be an ongoing thing, Mr Guthrie, or?
Well, I think the indicative business case will be that will hopefully deliver some information around what collaboration might look like, and certainly the costs around that. But I suppose the other aspect is the structures that are going to be created around us, like the regulator, and then later on there might be some other regulation and work around that organisation as well, with the stormwater and wastewater coming through as well later in the year. I don't know how the government will be funding that. That obviously is from the central funds, but there will be additional cost imposed on council through our own need to abide by the new regulation or the new framework. So I think it's fair to say there will be a lot of cost pressure under the new environment, and that's giving credence to the view that we should be trying to look at ways of doing it better and more efficiently and do more for less. And that's certainly been the discussion around the table has been around those thoughts.
I'll ask Mr McCann perhaps to add to that. The way I anticipate it, we're anticipating what's coming.
Yes, if I can add, what we've done collectively with the 5 councils is prepare ourselves and see what we can do and what we can provide before anything's imposed on us. So we're collaborating, looking at all the synergies, see where we can get consistency across and where we could work together successfully and in a meaningful way, using resources and sharing resources. So if we could then at a later stage prove that we can manage as a sub-region, it may change the direction from what gets imposed on us.
Councillor Mackay?
If I may ask a question, Mr Chairman. My question is around, yes, the collaboration is good because we've done it once with roading and it looked as if it worked pretty well. So does this actually, I'm hoping, Mr Chairman, that this does not go as far as the people, the districts collaborating, sharing the costs, because I asked that question because Ashburton is well up to speed with its 3 waters, and some councils around New Zealand are not. And I, for one, would get grumpy if our ratepayers have spent the money to upgrade the facilities here and then have to turn round through regional collaboration or collaboration across New Zealand, upgrading other people's water infrastructure that has not been done systematically over a period of time.
I think Mr Riak will answer that for you.
Yes, perhaps in a roundabout way. The government has signalled change in the water space, and they've just created a new regulator, and they're shortly to have legislation in front of the House for the regulations. The regulator is a relatively simple piece of the pie because there has always been a regulator. We might think of the Ministry of Health, for example, as being a regulator of drinking water standards. So there's going to be a new focused regulator, but the regulations, all indications are that they will be far tougher and set a higher standard for water, and that is going to place those who supply water, e.g. 74 councils, into considerable cost pressure, as Mr Guthrie has referred to. The government has then said, we understand that, so we are going to encourage you to think about different ways of delivering that water in conjunction with other councils around you. So we're not talking about another umbrella organisation that will add a layer of bureaucracy. We are talking about a fundamental examination of the way in which water is delivered to our communities. And some of the options floated by the government are at a vastly different scale to 5 councils in the middle of the South Island talking to each other. And there are proposals in conversation of one water supplier in New Zealand. One water supplier in New Zealand, or perhaps there might be 2 in the North Island and 1 in the South Island, or perhaps there would be 5 along the broad Super Rugby boundaries, so 2 in the South Island. So what the government has been encouraging us to do in that context is to see whether we can sharpen our minds to see if there is a better way in our part of the country of collaborating to deliver water under the very different regulatory environment that is coming. So I think the work that this group is doing is really important preparatory work for the new rules that are coming and the direction that the government wishes to take. I've been to a number of meetings where the one water provider in Scotland, not 74 councils, not Ashburton on their own, but one water provider in Scotland is an ideal model for New Zealand to replicate. So this is big fundamental stuff, and we are examining whether we can get ahead of the curve by demonstrating that in our part of the country there can be a collaborative approach that might get ahead of that curve. And all over the country this is happening. And there's been examples, I think, in the Hawke's Bay, in the Waikato, where councils are talking to each other to see whether they can't voluntarily have a collaborative model that prevents the excesses of some of the other options being imposed upon us.
Councillor Mackay.
Mr Chairman, I'm very pleased you've got this on the agenda and that we're looking at it, but I am very scared and I hope we don't have to clean up a problem in Auckland beaches when we have been cleaning up the Ashburton River successfully and the ratepayers have done it with council being the lead agency. Thank you.
Sure we'd all agree with that. Councillor Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just some questions. You've got, in the background, page 11, you've got there under point 9, funding assistance to supporters' work is available through the DIA. So that would be great. If I go to page 12, it tells us that we're going to pay $35,000 on pro rata. I can understand that. What is the money we're going to get or hoping to get from DIA? Is it part of that or is it outside of it?
No, so that the funding implications for this council are in the order of 35,000. But if the application's successful and we have no, we've been given a fairly good strong steer that it will be, they are funding 50% of the total. So they're funding they're funding 50% of the $240,000 application.
Thank you. If I make another comment, I think it's a great idea, to be quite honest, looking together and make sure that we go in the right direction.
Yes, page 17, it sets out the funding under item number 6. Any further? Mr Mayor.
So we're doing this here with 5 councils. The councils to the north of us doing their own thing, do you know?
Yeah, so that's also in the report. The northern councils are doing something very similar. And I believe they've also lodged an application with DIA as well.
Further discussion? Somebody like to move the recommendation? Councillor Brown?
I will, Mr. Chair, I'm happy to move the recommendation as it stands.
Councillor Latham? Any further discussion? If not, all in favour of the motion, please say aye. Aye. Contrary? Carried. Go to item number 7. Who will handle that, Mr. Firth? Yes. Mr. Firth, you... Page 39. 39. Any questions of Mr. Firth? This is an annual event. Both of them, I think, are annual events. I think the usual conditions are there. The road should be returned to where it was, and safety and health. And any comments, Mr. Firth? Thank you. Mr. Mayor's moved, seconded. Councillor Brown. Any further discussion or any discussion? You're moving the first recommendation, Riverside Industrial Park. All in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Carried. The next one, 7.2, standing flying quarter mile. Any questions of Mr. Firth? I've been using this road for 50 years, I'd say. No questions? Mr. Mayor moved, seconded. Councillor Romson.
I'll second. I think it's great that we can be able to support these events.
Any discussion on the motion? If not, all in favour, please say aye. Aye. Contrary? Carried. Item number 8. 6 monthly performance report. Page 46. We put the motion and then we discuss it, or we discuss it and then report on it. We'll discuss the report, and then if we approve of it, we've got to receive it. Right. Recommendation is that we receive it first. Councillor Lovett, you moved that we receive the report. Councillor Braham seconded. Any further discussion? If not, all in favour, please say aye. Contrary? Carried. Right. On the 4th page, hasn't got a page number on it, infrastructure services, halfway performance report. Drinking water. That whole page on drinking water. No comments? Councillor Brown.
Yep, one question about the schemes with the Protosol and the parts without it. I think you explained it to us before, so I think it's only a UV system what's doing that or not?
The primary issue with the protozoa is we've lost groundwater security in a number of our groundwater bore supplies. And that is being addressed progressively as we speak. One of the most prominent projects, of course, is the Ashburton Town bores, where we're lifting those up. We don't get back to protozoa compliance until we've got our security status back, and we have to get those bore heads re-inspected and signed off, and that hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
So it's all a work in
Yes,
progress.
yeah, that's what I understood. Thank you.
At the bottom of the first page on drinking water, the council contract is responding. It's worth noting that ACL have continued to be our contractor regarding failures on water and starting the 1st of July, new contract. Next page, drinking water, any comments? Consumption is still reasonably high in this district. Got plenty of good clean water. Next page, wastewater services. Once more, as Councillor Mackay says, we're very well serviced by past councillors with our wastewater system. And the new pipeline under the river is progressing satisfactorily. I think we will see it next week when we go on our bus trip around the district. Next page, stormwater. No comments? We should, yes, Councillor Mackay.
I recently asked some questions about cleaning out the grills. I know it's getting into maintenance and we're not supposed to go there, but with the autumn coming up and leaves falling, has the contractor been made aware that this may happen more frequently because Ashburton always seems to receive its annual rainfall, and at the moment we seem to be a little behind. So if we catch up in autumn when the leaves are dropping, will we have street flooding if the contractor misses a clean of the sumps?
As far as the leaf fall is concerned, there is extra cleaning of sumps and street cleaning done as a result of the seasonal change. And on top of that, if we're directed by the community wanting further sweeping done, we assess that on a complaint or basis.
Sometimes as a councillor, when we do have heavy rain, it can be a little frustrating to see grills with somebody's leaves have fallen on our grill and they wait for the ACL to come around and collect them, where they go out with a rake sometimes. With my front door, I think I would be keen to make sure the council grill is as clean as possible, but because quite often that's why we have street flooding, isn't it? That just grills are somehow get blocked. I think we will take this report to the...
Hang on,
yes, Councillor.
my question wasn't too worried about the top of the grill. I'm worried about in the
Under
sump.
the grill.
And I don't think we should even attempt to ask residents to lift the grill. I would be against that.
I think we should show the Minister of Local Government will be here in 10 days what sort of approval we get with our drinking water, stormwater and wastewater. Stock water services. Pretty clean reading there. No comment? Transportation. Comments here. Councillor Brown, I knew you'd have something here.
We'll have to, wouldn't we? Third one down, the sealed local road network is well maintained. 6.2% and 4% is the target. 2.6% of what?
The 6.2% is the 6.2% of the network, in other words, the surface area of the network. The 2.9% is what's been done in the first 6 months of this financial year.
So it should really read that the local network is resealed. That the measurement is not worded correctly.
Yes, that looks a bit like that. It should be the sealed road.
It's
How would you
resealed.
put it? The amount that we actually do on a yearly basis.
Of resealing.
Yes, of resurfacing.
That's adjusting. Yep.
I've got a question on metal reeve on unsealed roads. It's 3/4 of the way through the year now. We're going to have to put a lot on to bring it up to the 48,000, I believe, is it? Got that in hand?
Generally, the metal maintenance is done in the wetter months of the year. So from basically May, June, July, or August, not August, sorry, April, May, June, July is when we actually attack the metal maintenance, carrying on into July, August. By that stage, we've run it out and we're starting the resurfacing program.
No more comments? Waste reduction and recovery? Councillor, Mr. Mayor.
The curbside collection service complaints are responded to within 24 hours response time, and it's in the contract KPI. So should there not be a time there, not a percentage, and how many, numbers and time? Again, it's not worded, the measure's not worded, perhaps.
It should state the
correctly.
percentage of requests is what the wording should be.
So it's percentage of requests.
Percentage of requests responded to within the 24 hours.
Yeah.
Yep.
Should we know how many requests there are as well?
We could mention that on the right-hand side in the comments if you want. We can
Yep.
state the numbers, yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Perhaps going back to the previous page, on the last item, counts residents are satisfied with the sealed roads. We seem to be going backwards rather than forwards, which is unfortunate. Yes, but that shouldn't make any difference. It'll be a percentage, I guess, of people at the time. We haven't, just because you've surveyed half the people for 6 months, it'll be 31% of those that have been surveyed are not happy. We can but keep trying. Nothing else on the last page? That is the end of the meeting. Thank you for your attendance. I'll declare the meeting closed.